Hello and welcome. It is New Year's Eve, the 31st day of December 2018. Welcome to the Money Charts channel, and a couple of charts will be shown, as well as a good handful of NHL hockey picks, all at plus odds or better than even. This first chart really isn't the nicest of results that I'm looking for, or it doesn't show how I would like it, but it is nice to have. This is empty net opportunities adjusted to fit a 31 team, 82 game schedule because the Vegas Golden Knights have been in for 2 years. You expect more data in games. There's been a lockout shortened season, but over that, this is how many times teams pull their goalies. So we're on pace for teams to pull their goalies over 825 times this year. It was a little bit higher, but they're pulling their goalies more often than not. What I'm looking for is the amount of minutes that they're pulling goalies. I think what this says more than anything is that they're pulling it with 2-3 goals down more often than before. It was almost always you would pull it with 1 goal. Back in the day, when you would pull the goalie with a minute left down by 1 and not 2, one of every 20 or 30 times I would see a spot where a team could not pull their goalie because the other team wouldn't allow them to do so. Because in that minute, they were unable to let the team get across center ice with possession or across the blue line even. But the next chart, I think, is a very nice one, or shows what exactly how the change in the NHL is playing. And this is the percentage of times that empty nets are scored in the NHL. So we can see right now it's half the time. So half the time a team pulls their goalie, an empty net goal was scored in that empty net. And throughout 2007, 8, 9, 10, it was in the 30s. And then as 2014 and 15, there was more aggressive goaltender pulling, thus more aggressive goals scored. Now this year there hasn't been too many success. The success rate for teams trying to score with the empty net has been poor. Now, whether this is a case of teams just practicing much more and scoring the empty net versus the other team that's already used to playing on a power play, that might be one example towards such. Now, the statistics for this, I have found this on morehockeystats.com. And you got a bunch of different ones, but the empty net performance, and this is where I got the data from to calculate such. We got playing against the empty net and playing with the empty net. So in this case, if this is a team that is up by a goal, trying to they're the team trying to win by 2. I can see right now that Calgary has scored 12 of 17, led by a very good rank of guys like Kachuk and some other good players on that team. Colorado 9 of 14, Kings 7 of 10. Flyers 8 of 12, allowed, stating how much they allow a goal in there. And then we can see that there are just some teams that don't score too often when they are facing the empty net. Teams like, third of the time for Edmonton, 4 of 11 for Florida, 4 of 11 for St. Louis. Who else is not scored? 3 of 8 for Pittsburgh. They have not, and with Crosby and Malkin, Phil Kessel, you think that wouldn't be the case, and maybe that's variance that it's lower. After all, it's only a sample size of 8. And the fact that Pittsburgh's only had 8 opportunities for the empty net, you'd expect better teams to have more, but they have struggled this season, playing better of late. And we can see 6 of 12 for Buffalo, haven't performed well, 5 of 10 for San Jose. And then when we look at playing with the empty net, so they're defending it, and we want to see which teams defend it poorly. The Kings 11 of 17 allowing goals, Oilers 11 of 15, Dallas has allowed 11 of 16 goals, Anaheim 10 of 13, Rangers 9 of 12, and Chicago 9 of 20. Maybe a team you don't want to back as often on the to fade on the 2-goal differential. And then near the bottom of the list, Montreal. They have only once allowed a goal, and they haven't even scored yet in only 8 opportunities pulling their goalie. Vegas, 2 of 10. So you see, this is teams that maybe if you're looking to fade Montreal, maybe not a 2-goal game, but just a regular money line victory. Morehockeystats.com. That's the website. So then for my picks for today, it's 11:14 a.m. Eastern Time. As I'm doing this, the every game has yet to start. And with a star because it's not an NHL game, it's IIHF. Denmark and Czech Republic, a prop bet for no to both teams scoring at plus 430. The price is like much lower. But to me, the Denmark has got like about a 50-50 chance, if not worse, of scoring a goal. So this is just like gift wrapped, amazing odds long term that I just love. This afternoon, we got two games going with the Canucks and the Capitals laying a goal and a half, respectively. The Pittsburgh Penguins, let's give the reason for why I like Pittsburgh. And that is because they're hot, and, well, Minnesota Wild are not. It's a tough 1.5 point line. So I'm not going to be playing that. Islanders minus 1.5 goals, plus 286. Islanders are hot, Buffalo's cold. In the last 5 games, the New York Islanders have won by 2 or more goals. Tampa Bay, Anaheim over 6.5. I talked about the Tampa Bay Montreal game over 7.5 last time, and at even odds at such until the streak ends, or the bookmakers adjust. I'm gonna probably keep playing Tampa Bay over the total in their games. Los Angeles Kings, pick them at plus 148. LA's hot, Colorado's not. And LA is great in overtime. That's another thing to look at. They're awesome in overtime this year. Colorado, not so much. So teams that are very good in overtime, especially ones not so good on the opponent, I'm going to be less likely to want to play the minus 1.5. And if they're not as good in overtime, well, even more so now because I don't like my chances too much. They win by 1 if they go to overtime. Also of note, if this game does go to overtime, putting a live bet on with the Kings, I think would be a very solid play. And the Calgary Flames with minus 1.5 plus 218. They're too good of a team against too average of an opponent to be small home favorites. And as I've shown in that, Calgary just scores empty net goals at large rates. They should be one of the top overtime teams in hockey. At least historically they were. But this year they have not been. But they've still been good. So therefore, I'm going to be taking the Calgary Flames laying a goal and a half at the plus 218 price. I'm hoping with these types of odds I can win 40% of the time long term. But if I'm taking plus 200 here, plus 150 there, plus 300 there, and the very few plus 106 and plus 120, 130 kind of lines, then 40% winners would be extremely profitable. Through only one large size day and a small day yesterday, I'm 6-4. And there's going to be 8 results added to such. For not a single game can tie or push other than event cancel type of details. So there's no laying a goal and then it's just a 1-goal differential. Although I did think earlier about playing the Tampa Bay Ducks game over this total of 7 goals with a bit better of a price, but I have with the 4-3 games and all that 5-2. 4-3 is a very common score. I couldn't do such a thing. And looking back yesterday at Pro Football, I was quickly looking at the spreads and thinking, oh, the Chicago Bears have nothing to play for because why else would they be a 6-point underdog in Minnesota? Chicago should never be a 6-point underdog to anybody based on the fact that they're one of the top teams. So if they're playing the best team on the road, that's not them, of course. What are they, a 3.5 point underdog? So I was thinking, then I found out, the starters are playing and they got something to play for. Probably should bet the points, take the points, maybe even a money line play on them. Didn't do such. And it would have covered. They did very, very well. But generally speaking, games like sports like pro football, pro basketball, March Madness, NCAA, college football, bowl games, you're not going to be getting the greatest of lines, or the difficulty is much higher because they're tighter lines, there's more professional, more time added to it. And even though the Vegas Golden Knights have added more volume to hockey betting, that's being in Vegas, they still seem to have weaker lines in the National Hockey League, given my ability, in this case today, to have 4 of my 7 selections of NHL today to be laying that of the goal and a half. Something I wasn't able to do as often before, simply because there wasn't as many of the 2-goal differentials. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. There'll be hockey tomorrow and every night again, and until the All-Star break. Then on the All-Star break, I'll be plugging the numbers there, trying to find any type of edge or advantage that I can find. Bye-bye.